All right, guys, welcome back. This is Comic Creator Chats. We here are together again, and this week we got Phillip Kennedy Johnson here with us. We're super excited to have him. If you don't know his name, more than likely you saw one of the biggest books last week from Marvel came out last week, and he's the writer of it. And that's Alien. That's the image that you just saw. We are so excited, Phillip. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to talk, just get to know how you got started, what got you into all this and craziness, and yes, everything. So.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me. It's good to meet you guys.
Yeah, you too. Welcome. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before the show got started, just sort of getting an idea of what books, because I mean, to be honest, like your name didn't pop up until Alien in my mind. I mean, it's one of those like, oh shoot, who's writing Alien? Oh, I got to get to know this guy. And a lot of times that happens for depending on where you pick up books and different things. And then I started going through your books that you wrote, and I was like, that's been on my list to read. That's been on my list to read. And I'm like, damn it, I am a really sucky comic book reader that I haven't been able to read your stuff. And I apologize for that, to have you on.
Dude,
and
it's cool. Read whoever you want, man. It's fine.
But so the first book you said, and talk to me about this as I pull it up here. This one right here. Talk to me about what Last of Sons, and give me your pitch. All
right. Well, Last Sons was my first printed book, man. It kind of, okay. So the pitch for it is, it's a world in which Americans can't have kids anymore. So in that scenario, human trafficking becomes legit. Like it kind of becomes how families are made, because we still need families here. So around the world, kids become like money. And there are these adoption agencies that set up shop in third world countries, buying, bartering, or stealing kids to ship back here for adoption. And this follows two brothers in Nicaragua who are doing that. And they normally buy children, but they're competing with what they call pickers, who just are grabbing kids off the street. And in the end, one of them gets really frustrated and grabs a kid and finds out eventually they have grabbed the wrong kid and they have to get out of the country. It's like a crime story set in that world, and through their eyes, they kind of see what the world's become.
Jeez. So it's a lighthearted kids book. Wow.
I mean,
I gotta look at that again. The cover doesn't tell me that. Like, I'm like, whoa, that's so much deeper and darker.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like paint the walls of your brain's dark like I made it sound just now. It's the premise is certainly super dark, but the actual tone of it is a little bit lighter. It's more like an Elmore Leonard book, kind of just the banter between the brothers kind of keeps it a little bit lighter, and just the voice of it is not as dark as the material is. You know, you definitely see dark stuff in it, but not quite as gruesome as it might be.
I'm sold.
No, thanks. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah,
it's actually
cool.
getting
really
developed for film now. I'm very proud of it. It's there's a movie getting put together with Peter Dinklage in the role. If you notice on the cover, one of those brothers looks like Dinklage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
the artist actually modeled the character after him?
He did, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I was like, that was way too much like him.
Not with his permission, but when it was all done, rather than sue us, he decided to make a movie with us, so that was cool.
Can you track back before that for us? Writing, just getting into writing in the first place. When did that happen? How did it happen? When did you decide comics was the direction you wanted to take it? That kind of stuff. Man,
it was almost by accident. My career was actually music, and I mean, back in the day, I wanted to be an artist myself, and eventually, and I love to write too, but I ended up choosing music as a career path, and I went to college for that. And I got out of college and became a musician, man. I'm a trumpet player, and so I played trumpet with the Glenn Miller Orchestra for a while, and then settled in in one of the DC military bands, which is where I am now still. And while I was up here, my younger brother, who also played trumpet and drew, decided to go the other way. And he wanted to become an artist, but kind of didn't know how to get started. And so, yeah, he was just kind of stuck. Like, well, I don't know how to do this. So I was like, well, just come move in with me, and we'll just figure this out. And we started going to convention. I started writing again to give him scripts to draw, because I had loved comics all the way through high school and the first little bit of college. And then I just kind of got busy and stopped reading for fun pretty much because I was just in school all the time. The music major is very time intensive. Like you kind of sell your soul to the practice room, and I just wasn't doing a whole lot of reading for fun. But that kind of gave me an excuse to get back into it. So I, by that time I was living in the DC area, and I'd seen these ads for this new shop called Third Eye Comics that was brand new at the time. And I just went in, I was like, all right, let's see what comics look like now. Last time I had been reading, I was reading stuff like Batman Nightfall and like Age of Apocalypse and X-Men and Mullet Superman and I was reading all this Big Two stuff, and I had literally never seen a comic shop. Like it was, I was buying stuff mostly off the shelves. When I was a kid, they had them in like grocery stores. My dad would come home with a big box of ripped up comics from a flea market or something. Yeah. But I didn't know comic shops were a thing, until later on, and I just hadn't seen one. So I get into like a legit store, and I'm seeing like Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon and John Cassaday, and The Boys and Irredeemable and American Vampire and Lock and Key and all this amazing shit. And I was just so impressed with how far everything had come. And there have been amazing indie, like Vertigo was doing stuff back before, when I was reading before, but I didn't know any of that stuff. So I was seeing that kind of thing for the first time, and the art was blowing me away, and the stories were so deep and gritty. I was like, man, this is just awesome. And so I just kind of figured out what the state of the art had become, and found some how-to books and started reading some scripts and see what scripts even look like, and took my brother to conventions and just kind of figured it out, And I was just writing strictly for him, just to write stuff for him to draw, so he'd have a portfolio with some sequentials in it and not just pinups. And then he ended up joining the Army too as a multimedia illustrator, which is the name of a specific job you can do in the Army. And so he drew for the Army for like 6 years. And they trained him up in Photoshop and Illustrator and all that. And then he got out and went to art school in the GI Bill. So this whole thing is really just kind of helped him get his foot in the door. And I continued because I was having an awesome time with it. I was getting it was just so rewarding. I don't know. The idea of working with different artists and everything, and just the process was really grabbed me. So I started writing for other people, and one of those turned into Last Sons of America.
That's awesome. That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
And even
it just feels like from fandom straight in, and then the family aspect is really cool. I mean, most people don't tell a story like that. That's pretty cool.
It was cool. I'm very glad it went that way. And even just the reason to continue was, to help him get a foot in the door when he got going, when he got out of school and all that. We could just, I'd have a little leg up, and when he started putting out books with me, then it'd be, get some more eyes on him. So worked out.
That's really.
Thanks.
So, wow, like I'm sort of, yeah, like Mike said, we're just we've heard so many different people's how they got started stories, and a lot of them do start with that I went to a convention, but I like hearing that you went and you bought that book, and you're like, okay, I learned how to write scripts from reading a book. I went, like, those types of things. We haven't talked to a ton of writers, so it's sort of cool to hear, because most of the writers we've talked to have done the Kickstarter thing, where they had a passion project and they did it, and they found an artist, and everything came out of their pocket, and then they moved up. We haven't talked to anyone, or you hear like the Snyder story where, not Snyder, Tiny Tinian story where he's like, oh yeah, I was in Snyder's class and we both got talking about Batman, and he got me my first job writing Batman. You're like, oh, that's fun.
It makes me want to go out and buy script writing for dummies and see if I can do it too.
Honestly, there was a great book. Andy Schmidt wrote it. He runs a site now called The Comics Experience.
I have seen that.
Yeah, that's all Andy Schmidt's thing. And he had a book called, oh man, it's a long title. I can't remember the name. The Insider's Guide to Writing Comics and Graphic Novels, I think. But yeah, it's great. And they had it in my library. And so I just went and picked it up. And then there were some other ones too called, there's one called Panel 1, I think, that had sample scripts of various writers. one of them was Neil Gaiman, and I knew Neil Gaiman's name. I really liked American Gods. So I was like, "Oh, okay." I didn't even know he'd written Sandman at the time. I was just learning like kindergarten shit about comics still. So
that's a good guy to start with, though. I mean, Neil's what I started reading when I got in, and it still hasn't really ever gotten better than Neil.
Yeah, Neil's great
for me.
So that's really. So you went from Last Sons, then Warlord.
Yeah, Last Sons was a really positive experience for all of us. And after it was done, or while it was still going on, really, my editor was like, "This was great, man. Let's do something else." And he just kind of hit me up for more pitches. And after you've got one book that gets out there, and you've got people that worked with you and had a good experience with you, every book after that becomes exponentially easier, because now you've got something on the shelf. Even if it's just one book, but it's like a legit book.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. You're published. Now you're in the club or whatever. And we can see what you want to do next. And then you don't have to, like that first one, you've kind of got to prove that you don't need them to help you make comics. Like they want to see someone who's able to make it on your own. Like, I can make comics by myself. I don't need you. Yeah. And when they see that, they're like, "Cool, come do it for us." If they like what they see.
So Last Sons, who'd you publish that under?
Last Sons with Boom Studios.
Okay.
But but how I got noticed with them, though, was I was at San Diego Comic-Con, and I had made friends with Ron Mars through another long, circuitous route. I just had a blog on my personal site, and I had written a piece comparing the mediums of comics and jazz. And and Ron, I reached out to Ron Mars, not even knowing who he was. Because I was like, "Hey, I read his column on CBR. He had a column called Shelf Life that I really admired. And my essay kind of felt like something that he might write in Shelf Life. So I was like, "What do you think I should do with this? Like, I'd like to get more eyes on it. How do I even get this?" Yeah, his email was on the site or something. I was like, "Do you have any advice for how to get this thing run somewhere?" And he reached out to Jonah Weiland of CBR and got a run on CBR, which was really generous. And I totally didn't ask him to do that. But so we kind of became friends, and he introduced me to some people, including Matthew Dow Smith, the artist who did Last Sons with me. And at some point he introduced me to Philip Sadlick, who was the VP of marketing and publishing at Boom at the time. And so Ron's like, "Hey, I got this kid who's got some books on a Kindle." And it's just stuff that I just like pitch packets that I had put together just to show people on the show floor. By that point, I'd gone to some conventions. I kind of figured out how to do this, but I'd gotten used to elevator pitching all my stuff. So I had like pitch packets for all these different books that I had put together, like 6 to 10 pages of art on 3 books. And that's all I had. And he was like, "I got this guy and some stuff in the Kindle." And Philip's like, "Fuck you, Ron. Now I got to look at this kid. Like, he's going to suck. Everyone sucks. I got to look at this kid's stuff. And he probably sucks." And so he's like, "Hey, man, good to meet you." And I showed him my stuff, and he dug one of them. I mean, all of them. I was very proud of all of them, but he really liked one, and that was Last Sons. And the opening pages of Last Sons turned out very much like they did in the printed book. So luckily he was like, "Wow, okay, it's something we could actually do." And then we got it made at Boom.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I do appreciate you kept going on the Kindle. I'm like, well, the image I actually grabbed was actually from Comixology and Amazon, so you can see the unlimited down there at the bottom.
Yeah. What I was going to tell you was that for that first book that you do, you got to put together. You got to have an artist. You got to get a colorist, a letterer, and like make the whole thing look like a finished comic. Even if it's not the entire issue, you got to make it look solid. Know how to do this and not cut corners. But after that, for the second book and all the books after that, really, especially if you're like a known quantity in the industry now, it's not nearly as complicated. Like, I don't have to do that anymore. I can just go to, a publisher, may like, "Hey, I'd like to do a book with you," and just give them like a short pitch and then maybe a 1-pager. But then if they like it, then I'll give them like a first issue script or something. But then they can help me find the artist potentially, or I say, "Hey, I was thinking about this artist for this," but it's not so much on me anymore, because now they know I can do it at this point.
And you've got those prior books in your back pocket. You can be like, "This is what I've written already. Go check that out."
And if they have artists that they like working with, that's good for them too. So
Okay.
That's yeah.
So was this your second series you did?
That was another. I mean, both of them, because I'm so new and because Boom at the time honestly was not. I mean, they've grown so much even since then. At the time, doing a big long series for them was not on some no name like I was. It's not really a good business plan. So like that, The Last Sons was only 4 issues, which was perfect. It was sweet. We didn't have to take any kind of real risk on you. And then the next book was also 4, but with the hope that it would really like just catch the zeitgeist and get made into an ongoing series. Mm-hmm. We did that one, which is also 4 issues, and that book is good, man. I'm really proud of that book. We didn't quite get the numbers that we needed to do more of it, sadly. So it's still right now it's still a 4-issue series, but it's solid. The artist has gone on to do amazing stuff, and that was his first book too, and he crushed it.
Okay.
And yeah, hopefully we'll do more someday.
So do you have like
thinking about going back to it?
We're all going to ask the same question.
So you do have like a set of, if I get to, I have issue 1, 2, 3, 4 again, or like at Warlord of Appalachia 12 or whatever. Like,
I don't have an exact number of issues like planned. I'm not sure how far it would go, but I definitely have more stories I wanted to tell there. There's a kind of in the back of the 4th issue, there's kind of a resolution that wasn't going to be there. Like it's all about a man and his son, and a big part of it is this man getting his son back. And spoilers, in the 4th issue, that kind of happens, but that wasn't going to happen initially. It was going to be like this big rug pull out moment. It's like, oh shit, now it's not done. And then we were going to see all these other aspects of that place. It's like this alternate. So World of Appalachia, the pitch for that one is it takes place after the Second American Civil War, and Kentucky's become an occupied nation within U.S. borders. And this mechanic just kind of falls backwards he accidentally sparks a revolution and becomes the first feudal warlord of the Appalachian Mountains. It's really fun adventure. I'm really proud of it. It's kind of a love letter to Kentucky, where I used to live. And
you're right. Kentucky can be its own little country. There's, especially the Appalachia area. I mean, you can throw a little East Tennessee in there too.
It would be fun to see that kind of place. Maybe fun's not the right word, but if there was a big, I mean, it came out October 2016. It was when the first issue hit, and there's a very Trumpy character in the book. There's the whole thing follows the Civil War. There's like this National Guard versus Army thing that had happened in the past that we don't really entirely show. It's not that different. This
seems awfully feasible. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to do more of it. There's a lot more I wanted to show of that town.
So what's your process for sort of sitting down and either getting the initial ideas or actually hashing out those ideas into story? What do you actually do to do that?
As far as finding the actual story, like finding the idea rather, that's not something where I just sit and like, now I will think of an idea. It's not, it's more like, I just consume a lot of stuff when I can. I try to like watch, there's so much great TV and movies and books and comics out there. Like I just take in as much of that as I can. I mean, these days I'm slammed constantly, but I still make time to take in really great work whenever I can. And ideas kind of come from that, like whether like just fertilizing your brain with great stuff all the time, and just kind of paying attention to the world we live in. Little ideas kind of come together. For example, Last Sons of America, the impetus for that came in 2010 when at the time, my wife and I at the time were trying to have a kid, and I was kind of accepting that it was probably not going to happen for us. And around that same time, there was this big earthquake in Haiti, and there's this huge humanitarian crisis down there. And I was listening to NPR or something, and I heard a piece about this mission group from the U.S. who had gone down there ostensibly to rescue orphans and to get them adopted like somewhere else. But they end up snagging a bunch of kids who still had families and try to basically smuggle them out of the country. Because I mean, the thing is down there with that crisis, it was not like if that happened in a suburb around here or like in a real city, there's all this infrastructure to help people find each other in cases like that. The kids might have phones. There's emergency services. There's all this shit that can help you. But there are these places down in Haiti where that was not the case, and so people would just have a hell of a hard time finding each other. So they would just grab kids and just run with them. And I kind of got me thinking about. I was doing a lot of anti-human trafficking work at the time too, volunteer work, and thought I kind of knew it all. And I've never really thought about the adoption angle, but it kind of got me reading about the for-profit adoption industry and how it works and some ethical gray areas within it. Honestly, there's almost nothing in that book that's made up. I mean, I was
just going to say, it's great. It seems very research-based. It's probably awesome because it's real.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, some of it is it just slightly sci-fi enough, like Children of Men, the movie.
I was going to mention that earlier. Yep.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film, and there's stuff in there where it does. I mean, it's sci-fi technically, but it doesn't feel like it's not sci-fi like Terminator sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff in that book. There's a place in the book called the Merc, which is short for Mercado, market, and it's just a place of trade for kids. And there's a moment where you see a bunch of kids lined up like behind little signs that say Blanco, Medio, and Moreno, like light, medium, dark, and they're lined up by skin color because that dictates value. So little moments like that are super messed up, right? like to my knowledge, it's not like you're going to see an orphanage where they do that. They don't line them up in the morning for breakfast that way. But as far as it's kind of like an undertone that I wanted to work in there and just make it visual. Like, boom, this is how it is. If you got a kid with light skin or blonde hair, you can write your own ticket.
But that is a part of when adoption is that people do weigh those things. They talk about and they make choices based off of skin color.
Right.
I mean, it is sort of one of those like, but yeah,
it's pretty good.
I applaud you for that. I mean, just putting something in there that people are kind of afraid to talk about, but there it is, smacking people's faces to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And go, that's kind of how it is.
So it's fake in that, like just like that 5% a little bit to make it a little more like gaspy, but all the stuff in it is very, very true to life, sadly.
So you kept doing some books for Boom, and I have to throw these two up here just because I think it sort of leads into where you are sort of now, just because first off, you tackled a known quantity. Like you got to do Kong.
I did.
And was this before the Peter Jackson movie or after or Kong Skull Island? Okay.
It was before the Skull Island film.
Okay.
It was after the Peter Jackson, but before the one they did after that.
How was it writing for a character that has now he doesn't have quite the lore, but he does have lore that you have to base some of your stuff off of. How was it doing that? Like thinking through that process? Honestly,
it's been a long enough time now that I can say that project was a total drag. Hopefully Daphne does not piss me for saying that. She's my editor. She's awesome. The reason that it was not fun was that the licensor on that book was kind of a hassle to work with. And they were very particular about stuff. I love researching. Like honestly, one of the coolest things about writing licensed books is that it gives me a chance to fill in gaps in my knowledge as a fan. Like when I got reached out to by DC, like when do DC book with us, and that editor told me the books that he was editing, it was like Aquaman, Flash, Green Lantern, but he didn't need that one, Constantine, a couple others. And as soon as he said Constantine, I was like, that's all I want.
That's the one.
Like that's the one. But he was like, actually, what we could really use is an Aquaman. I was like, cool, whatever. I love Aquaman too. I don't know anything about Aquaman. But
you're thinking back to, is he still in the orange tights?
Right. Yeah, I didn't know much about Aquaman, but it gave me a chance to look it up and to get to know that character and to really learn to love him. And Kong, I mean, I did like Kong. I knew the original film. I loved the Peter Jackson film. I knew some of the stuff that had come between, but I wasn't like deeply familiar with the knowledge, with the lore. And it's been that way with a lot of my books. I get the call to do a book and I'm, kind of behind. Adventure Time is a classic example. Where I was like, yeah, dude, I love Adventure Time. I had never seen the show. And I just mainlined Adventure Time for like 24 straight hours. That show is super weird. And there's real lore to that show, and there are rules, and it's super weird, but it makes a ton of sense. It makes sense in its own world, And I learned a ton of respect for that show actually after having watched so much of it.
How many issues did you end up doing?
Oh, it was just one short story actually. It was all for a 6-page short story.
Okay. I was just making sure. I was like, because there is like, we go on sites and we look, and Adventure Time has like hundreds of issues and variants, and it's just like, whoa, I can't even figure out what the number one issue of the book is, because there's like 27 different variants and versions. And
no, it's great. I stand by that show now. It's awesome. But it was all for the 6-pager. What were you saying, Mike? Sorry.
As a result of say some of the drawbacks of having to do a character with lore, did you have reticence going into? I mean, I guess I'm going to jump us ahead. Did you have reticence going into Alien, knowing full well that there's a legion of cult level fans for that, and that you could really piss some people off if you did it wrong?
No, man, I'm totally one of those culty fans. I am.
Okay.
Well, Alien.
So am I.
Oh, cool. Yeah, dude. Alien.
Yeah.
I never had any doubts about that one. I've been running my whole life for that race without
That's
knowing
awesome.
without knowing it was coming. I was just.
Are you a reader of that as well, or just a movie guy?
No, I love the books too, but I'm primarily a movie guy. I love the movies. I love the game Isolation. I know there are other games. The other ones didn't grab me as much. But I love the Alien Isolation game. I love all the films except Resurrection, which I think kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But I stand by all the other ones. And
what's your favorite? What's your favorite maybe old school book, like the Dark Horse years or one of those? What would you recommend to someone just jumping in?
Salvation. Yeah, the Mike Mignola, Dave Gibbons book was really awesome. Yep. I love that book.
That's one that I think I sent you the little video thing that I tried, the tribute where I'm trying to find all of everyone. Salvation is one I hadn't seen before, and someone pulled it out. And it was like, dude, this book is that cover's gorgeous. And then Mignola he brings to life so many different things. So I'm gonna have to go read it, because now the writer.
And in a very different way than all the other artists have handled the covers for those books. Yeah. Everything else is like super deep painted Dave Dorman kind of stuff, which I love. Don't get me wrong. But then there's that style, and you're like, wow, that's really refreshing and crisp and cool and different and still evil and dark. But perfect. Yeah.
No, I love it. I love the art style for it. I love the way Gibbons wrote it. I love this is awesome series. Labyrinth was also great with how friggin' dark it was. Like that book is like upsetting. So that was nicely handled. I like this is not old, but it's James Stokoe. I don't know how to say his name.
Deep.
Yep.
The other day, I heard somebody the other day call him James Stokey, and it's somebody who I think actually knows him, so I could be wrong.
Dead Earth, is that the one? Or
Dead Orbit.
Dead Orbit. Yeah, I was like, that's gorgeous too. Like he wrote and drew it, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, the art style is why I love that one in particular. That one was a little light on story, but the art just looks so like gross in the way that it should, kind of. I don't know. I thought it was really cool. I like the books that tied in with Alien, the Isolation game. I thought those were nice. The Amanda Ripley stuff. But yeah, dude, I am dyed-in-the-wool Alien fan all the way. I didn't read shit for that. I was like, I was ready to go.
This one.
Yeah, so I was ready to go.
I don't know how much you can we all read the issue. We all had different opinions on how much we liked it. But part of the thing is like, okay, crap, you're setting up a story. It's always so frustrating. We're like, I don't have any characters, like, because you created characters that didn't exist. Like and so like, and then you gave us Yeah, except for Bishop, which I love the fact that I got to see Bishop in like 3 different worlds or 2 different worlds or whatever.
Yeah.
I love that. That was really cool to see that piece in there, but it was really hard to go, where's he going? And then you throw the last 2 pages. We don't want to reveal, but you're like, oh, and this happens, and you're like, like, I mean, how long of an arc do you have planned for this, or can you tell like how long of an arc you have planned or whatever?
I'm not sure if they want me to tell how many issues the first arc is, but it's not. I will tell you that we're kind of dancing the line between the Dark Horse approach and what you might expect. So it's on, the numbering is going to be ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be like
chunks.
Yeah, there's going to be different arcs, and they will be different arcs that they're not intrinsically linked, but there will be some through matter that connects them in a way that the other ones were not connected. Does that make sense? So like,
absolutely. Yeah. Star Wars used to do that too.
Yeah. Like if you read Alien Salvation and Alien Dead Orbit, I mean, they don't even necessarily have to be in the same universe. I mean, they feel very different.
Yeah.
But these are going to feel like this. There's through lines that are going to connect all these arcs together. So I'm treating them like movies. I want these to always be canon. I don't want there to be any question whether they're like, real or not. I want them to tie directly.
No dream sequence at Resurrection. Was that the one they said that they said, oh, it was all a dream. It never actually happened.
Well, there is a that thing in the opening is technically a recurring dream that Bishop is trying to help Gabriel make sense of.
Mm-hmm.
Which we'll see more later, like what that means, like what the hybrid means and all that. But it's, but yeah, there's no question whether the events of this book are like true, like capital T true, because this is all being done with the cooperation of people at 20th Century who are involved in the show, who are also, super involved in the films and like really know their shit. So I didn't want to tie it. I didn't want to commit to whether Alien 3 happened or not, because that's already kind of up for grabs. Like I like that movie, but not everyone does. And the big thing I don't like, of course, is the fact that we lose Hicks and Newt for kind of no reason.
Off screen,
yeah, it kind of sucks. Yeah, that aspect kind of sucks, especially after everything they went through in 2. To have it be for nothing kind of sucks. So that's definitely a drag. And they even addressed it in different stories since then, like the screenplay that they released, and then the comic back in the day. There's all these versions, and like we don't know whether Hicks or Newt really made it out of there. So I wanted to do a story that takes place just before that stuff, or in a way that doesn't commit to that, because I don't want this to be unwritten by some development in the films later on.
Yeah, well, you brought us right back to the early days, the first and second film. Anyway, you tie it right to the Nostromo, and I mean, in the text at the beginning and all that kind of thing. So that's where my brain instantly went, was pre-3. So that's good. Success, great success.
Technically, I guess it's after 3, but it's not. But it doesn't deal with the issues of 3 at all. It just refers to the first 2. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. Now, are you guys trying not to spoil it for people who've not read it, or does it?
Well, by the time this releases, they've had a week and a half. So
yeah, it's a week and a half.
I'll spoil one thing. I'm pretty happy that you blew somebody's head off.
I know. I sat up, like I was lounging.
I was shocked. Yeah, that was awesome. I'm like, damn, I did not expect that in a mainstream Marvel book. Bravo.
Yeah, the original was even more, more gnarly. And they were like, can we add a little more muzzle flare? Cover up some of the teeth through the brain thing? And it's like, yeah, sure, I guess so.
But then you also like the father-son elements of the book, and the struggle, and the problem, like you said in watching, like, damn it, I don't know which one I dislike at this moment more. Like, and that was probably your point. Like, okay, the dad's an asshole, the son's an asshole. Which one's the bigger asshole? And then you get to the end, you're like, well, damn it, the son's an idiot and an asshole. I don't know. Like,
well, we don't understand the politics yet, right? We don't really know the truth yet, so we don't really know what side of the politics we would be on as a reader. So I don't know who we would side with. Is the way I take it.
I mean, there's no like pure white hat in the book, and I mean they're kind of assholes, but I mean Gabe loves his son, and he wants to be connected with him, but he did kind of like he has been kind of an absentee dad. Like his family basically left him, and sounds like he had the option to go home, and he didn't. He stayed up there for his career instead. He's like, I'll kind of take care of it later. So he loves his son, but maybe not enough, maybe not as much as he should have back when it mattered. And his son resents his dad for leaving, or for not leaving with them.
And your secondary story that you're the other son, like what happened to him?
Yeah, what happened with the?
And that's I want to read more to know. Okay, when is that going to be revealed? Like you're setting up all these other side stories that might be arc number 2 or arc number 3, the flashback,
and the dream that you brought up. I want to know what the dream's all about. I want to get back to that.
Well, the son's very specific about the fact that Wayland Corp is why the other boy is dead. Something very connected to, or at least as far as the living son thinks.
Right.
That's the trick, I guess.
Yeah, like that. I wanted to. Hopefully, they both come from. Knowing them both as intimately as I do, they both have very defensible positions and like why they want what they want and why they feel the way they do. And no one's like, I'm evil. No one's like, I'm the hero.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting to read it that way, to not be like good guy, bad guy. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's definitely more interesting when you can see yourself. You might be leaning one way or the other, but depending on how the story's playing out, you could see everybody's point of view. And
that's what makes some of the best superheroes the most successful ones, like Wolverine and Punisher, that are kind of in that gray area. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily always the good guy. They do some pretty awful shit.
Yeah. Like for years and years, we saw Wolverine and Cyclops in the same team working together, but they don't like each other, and there's reasons.
Yep.
So, yeah, I try to make it a little more complicated, and that's kind of how I like it.
That's
awesome.
You're
also writing for Marvel, writing a book where typically there's no happy resolves, and those Alien books, they're you might be lucky if some guy's floating off into space hoping that someone picks him up. I mean, like it's
it's a win. Yeah.
So like you're writing a book where like, okay, even with different arcs, like I know you said you got stuff planned, you know where it's going. Hopefully it's ongoing with numbers and everything. It's just weird to think of what characters might continue. Like the think through that, like they might continue into the next series and they might be winning at some point. And like I don't know, that excites me to think through how you're going to approach that. I'm picturing the father and the giant coming in with some giant, like what was that thing called in the first movie? The drill thing where he's wearing the
the suit? Talking about the suit?
Oh, like the loader?
Yeah, the loader suit.
The loader.
Like I'm picturing that in my mind coming up. He's coming to rescue his son or whatever. Like that type of scene happening. But I mean, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to see where.
I'm glad, man. Thanks. I was. Man, I'm so stoked to be on this book. I will say people online kind of grabbed onto the hybrid thing in the spread more than I intended. I was like, okay. I didn't think people would grab onto that. Like, you're jumping the shark. This is all changed. It shouldn't be there. It looks like self-species. I was like, no. Look, it's not. It's a dream, guys. It's gonna be okay. It's not. It's
gonna be okay.
Yeah, I'm not
sad that you have to say that to fans, though. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Calm down.
I'm just glad it wasn't like toned down. Like that was one thing I was happy to read. I mean, apart from seeing like the head being blown off, like there's a couple of shits in there. I was like, did I just read shit in the Marvel book? Like,
a lot more. Like they say we have not been dropping any F-bombs yet, I don't think, but there's plenty of profanity. Pretty much anything else is on the board. So we're cussing a lot, showing plenty of gore.
It fits. I mean, it fits the universe, and that's what I'm happy to see that
exactly.
It just is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's less profanity than I've already said on the show. So it's
just tossing them on the cover and make sure people are warned, and then they read at their own risk.
I just want it to feel just like the movies, man. I want to feel,
and it does so far.
Good. I'm glad. But yeah, as far as that hybrid thing though, we wanted to have a lot of Giger's designs all the way through here, and not just his xenomorph work. There's other designs that he's done over the years that are equally iconic and really cool. And Giger's the reason Alien is cool. I mean, the xenomorph is the perfect expression of fear on film. And I love the way it looks. And I always want to have the xenomorph design rooted in that,
all those design elements, even background stuff, wall textures, and just all kinds of crazy, creepy shit.
Yeah, that's how I want it to be. So he did a lot of art based on the design of his old lover, Lee Tobler, who ended up killing herself. He did a lot of art that looked like her, like in super monstrous kind of ways. So we did something that was kind of inspired by those works. and we're going to see things in future issues that are designed by other things that he's done. But not just for no reason. Like it'll always make sense. It'll be story reasons for it to make sense, but it's always got to feel like Eager to me.
That's great. That's awesome. I like it when it sticks to the source material, because I mean it was perfectly done in the first place. It's one of those
Exactly.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No need to revamp it. No reinventing the wheel here.
Right. Exactly.
So I know you have nothing to do with it as much, but I got to switch to the covers, because the covers, it was amazing to see 17, 18, 50 different artists, it seemed like, line up to do an Alien cover, and they all almost did the exact same headshot, but just in their style. It was, was there any one of them that I don't even know if you saw them all, because you have so many store variants as well, like that you looked at and was like, that was what I was hoping for. Or that, like, I mean, I don't even know if you are allowed to say, man, I really love that Gleason cover, or I really love, there's a Delato that Scott's did that I like, or
Man, Delato is friggin' incredible. That might be my favorite, but damn, they're all so great, man. Honestly, I've not yet seen one I didn't like.
Yeah.
I saw one the other day at a store I had not seen. I signed one that I had not seen before. it was just, I mean, they've got like a black one that you just like do, drawings on, or whatever. But there's another one that I thought was that, but it's actually like a picture of just like that slightly greenish, like space thing.
It's the one for 250 wraparound.
Yeah,
it's a blank variant, but it has sort of the greenish tint.
You can almost see that it's the Starfield, but it's got the green haze to it.
God, it looks so rad, and I love the Gleason, I love the Peach Momoko, the David Finch that I saw when they first announced it. That's actually next to you. I think is that it? Yeah.
Is this the Finch one that I got?
I think so.
I grabbed the black and white Finch was. Is that the one per store? I think I grabbed that. Mine's Finch too, but mine's just the sketch version.
Oh, okay.
Is it this one?
Well, I grabbed the Gleason too because it looks like a poster.
I think
see Finch's signature, but it does look like his.
It looks like his work. I haven't seen this. I can't guarantee it's him, but it looks like his work to me.
Hey, Pete, hold it up again. I'll throw you up there big.
Yeah, that looks right. Yeah, I think that's the Finch one.
I can't tell if it's Finch or not, but that looks like the little bit of cross hatching, a little bit of details he puts in there.
He's walking around inside the Guardian ship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the one that matches the art on mine, but it's hard to tell because mine's just black and white. But
yeah, when they first announced,
I had no Gleasons when I went. I tried to get a Gleason, but I was like, oh, there's no Gleason. Oh well, go with this one.
When they first announced the Marvel license, they showed an image of the alien in the Guardians ship, and they showed the Predator holding up an Iron Man skull. And I think I
remember that.
I think that's that.
That's so. At that point, were you already writing for? Because I know you'd written for you went from Boom to DC, and you were doing Marvel, the Marvel Zombies. Was that your first Marvel?
That was my first like proper Marvel thing. But I had done a short story there before that. They reached out. They were doing these tribute books to their really old series, like War is Hell, and
okay, yes, I saw that cover.
Some of the old horror books that they did like way back. And they did like 8th anniversary of Marvel special edition books of those. So they did a War is Hell issue with with Shaken. Howard Shaken did a 10-pager in there, and they wanted another 10-pager, and they asked me to do it because they were like, hey, we know this Army guy. And it's like, you want to do an Army story? Like, yeah, dude, sure. This is my first Marvel thing. What am I going to say? So I did a 10-page story that actually I'm really proud of. That is, I mean, it's not widely read because it's just trapped in this little format, but it's called War Devil, and it basically deals with PTSD, but it treats PTSD as an ancient, like an infection kind of that you catch in war. So the idea is that you kill someone that has it, and their blood gets on you, and then it's this actual like African war devil that that travels person to person like a vampire. And
you keep describing stories. I'm like, damn it! And that was another thing. Every time we do a show,
stop talking about your stories because I don't have time to read all this shit. All right,
thanks, dude.
Got a bunch of stuff to go buy now.
I'm very proud of
Every
that.
every time we do this show, I promise myself I'm going to make it through an episode and not buy any books.
But yeah, it's
yeah.
funny how hilariously different Shaken's story was. Shaken has this encyclopedic knowledge of musical theater and like big band music and jazz. Like he just loves music, but musical theater especially. Like that dude is always watching shows whenever he's going to a big town. And he wrote a story. I told him that I was in the Glenn Miller band at some point, and he wrote this story about Glenn Miller in World War II and how like when his plane went down. So it's this almost like charming World War II story, and then it's like War Devil right after that. And my
PTSD is a disease.
Yeah, and my story is a story that I got from a guy that I knew who actually has since died. Who he was a ranger, and his whole gig in Iraq and Afghanistan was just he and his crew would go to work at night and just they would find like intel would be telling them where the bad guys are, and they're just kicking in doors and shooting people in their beds like every day. They just or every night they just get up. It's like, all right, where are we going? And they'll just go out there. It's like, there's the house. Make sure no one's around. Oh, there's a kid in the balcony. Wait till he goes away. All right, let's do this. They kick in the door, shoot everyone, go home. Every night. Like,
wow.
And that's the gig. And it's about one of those crews, and a guy who is talking about this kid that he saw on a job in Somalia, I think, and how his eyes were all wrong, and the nurse had said, "Don't talk to him. He's got this thing," and she described it as like a disease,
like a sickness.
And, said that something like someone had taken him or whatever. And he found out later that it actually meant this War Devil thing, and that's how they explain PTSD. And then by the end of the story, he himself has it. We see it in his eyes, and he's like, if there was a War Devil out there, I'd know it, right? I mean, like I would know if something like that was real. And then we see it in his eyes, realize that he has it now too. So, anyway,
dang, that's all.
At least that's only one issue. That only cost me $4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think I have that one. Actually, I think I have that one because I think I really liked one of the covers.
Oh,
so
cool.
I think I may actually have that. I may not have to buy that one.
Dan Panosian did the cover. Like it was like a fighter ace in World War II or something. It was just cool.
I'm sitting there going, okay, I don't know where to go. Every story's great, but I don't want to buy any more books. No. I do have to ask about, because you did some DC work, and this just blows me away. What the heck is going on here? What is this story?
The Last God is an epic fantasy horror story.
But DC, like...
Yeah, DC Black
Label.
So how did you end up doing a DC Black Label for, like, it doesn't fit with the normal DC books of this time. Like, this is perfect for the 70s or the 60s.
I'm trying to do Conan.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a Robert Howard type take on Lord of the Rings, kind of. But it's awesome. The reason it came about is it's actually going to be a Vertigo book. Is the answer of why it's Black Label. It went to Vertigo before Vertigo shuttered, and but I mean the art that was coming in for it was so incredible. They still wanted to do the series. They're like, let's do this as a Black Label book, because they were also doing the Joe Hill, the Hill House stuff, and other things.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Batman Damned and Harley and Joker. It was like there was room for other stuff there too. This story basically is kind of like, to sum it up, I would say, what if the Fellowship failed? All right, that's kind of the setup for this. So it's a world.
Mike's like, damn it, another book I have to buy.
I have those. I just have them in this pile of mess somewhere.
Oh, cool. Well, I hope you dig it, man. I'm very proud of it. It's a very bleak fantasy world where civilization is kind of in this infancy, and it's 30 years after this big thing happened, where the god in the void, this entity from outside the edge of creation, tried to like just destroy all that is using this crazy supernatural plague called the Flowering Dead. And this Fellowship of Heroes back then found the black stair that takes you out, like that leads into the void, and found the god in the void there and killed him and saved all of us. Then 30 years later, we discover that things did not actually go down the way that those guys said that they did. And the god in the void returns through using the bodies of the heroes as like his vessel. So one by one, it's like a body horror story set in Lord of the Rings. So King Tyr, who's like King Conan, basically, he's like the guy who saved everyone, or Aragorn. He becomes the way back in for the god in the void. Another plague, the Flowering Dead is back again, and we realized that the whole story that they told us was all bullshit. And then this whole new Fellowship of Heroes, not even heroes, Fellowship of people, kind of get caught up in it and get swept up in this crazy adventure to kind of do what their heroes claim to have done and actually kill the god in the god in the void, the last god. And so we're kind of seeing two adventures play out at once. We're seeing the story of the new characters, and that's interlaced with the story of the original heroes, and we see what actually happened. Not the story that they fed us, but the story of what we see, where everything went wrong, and this huge war crime that they committed when they actually found the god in the void, what they really did that damned them and all of us. And there is an unthinkable amount of world building in that book. I put in, it was like writing 10 books. I mean, there's every issue has 4 pages of back matter in the back. There's short stories, there's journal entries, like in-world journal entries. There are sacred texts for religions that we made up for this thing that don't even appear in the interiors. There's I wrote songs for this thing. I wrote songs for it. We recorded a lot of the music. I made up a new system of musical notation that they read in-world. You can also read and print. So you've got like the music that they read, and then actual music that you can read yourself if you want to play it.
Dude, this has to be something that DC goes back to, or you go back to at some point.
There weren't that many issues.
That's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. There's 12 issues, and then we also did in between those 2 arcs, there was also a D&D source book that we made that makes the whole thing playable in a tabletop campaign.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Wow, like the DC didn't do you justice of you hearing this pitch from you. I'm like, why didn't I know that this is what it was? Like, okay,
right.
Like I was blown away by the covers, and I picked some of these up when they came through, because is it Federici?
Yeah, Riccardo Federici. That dude is
like the covers.
You just pitched me.
I saw the blurbs.
You just pitched me my dream book. Is there? I mean, like, how did I'm with Chris on this. Like, that is something that this is DC's fault. I'm blaming them because there's no reation why I shouldn't have known.
Because I mean, I needed Batman's wedding. I mean, come on, that's what.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I'm no joke. I'm going to get all 12 issues of that tomorrow. I have to read that. That's insane. That sounds so damn good.
Don't forget the source book.
Oh, and so the D&D, we're going to be playing that online here soon.
I would play D&D every day if anybody else wanted to play with me.
I would too.
The sweet hardcover that's coming out in August. It has all of it. It has the issues, the back matter, the source book, and probably more, because there's even more source book stuff that we didn't even put in there. Because we had to cut it down to 40 pages rather than fill it. It was like, crap, we have all these different items and creatures and shit we can't use.
That's amazing.
That's so awesome.
Thanks, man. I hope you dig it. But even if you don't like the writing, God, the art is above reproach. You would not believe how great it looks.
Yeah,
I can't imagine why I wouldn't like the writing from everything that I have read that you've done, and even the things that I haven't read yet. But the way you're pitching is like, well, yeah, dude, I'm into Elmore Leonard. Get me Lord of the Rings.
I can even get by. Yeah, like I can even get by. Even a bad. Yeah, even if I didn't give you your due, like even if the day-to-day writing in it isn't good, the concept is so great that I almost won't care. So don't worry, it's already good just from the pitch.
I stand by the writing. I think it turned out really kick-ass, and we want to do a lot more of it. I mean, I've already got 2 more arcs I could write like tomorrow. So whenever I'm free and Ricardo's free, I'm sure we're going to do more, because it's this huge world, and fans are responding to it, and it's like word of mouth is still kind of spreading, and people are hearing more about it. So I feel like once the hardcover's out, I think they're going to want us to do more at some point. So I'm super stoked to do that. In fact, the whole thing ends with one of those songs I mentioned. And it kind of sets up the next arc potentially. Like it kind of gives a little.
You need to still. I don't know if you read We Live. It's an indie book that came out, but they had in their QR codes where you could scan the QR code and then listen to music that was written specifically for the book. So like you need to have that, like snip that into the hardcover where we scan a QR code and there you are on your trumpet playing the music or whatever.
Oh, cool.
So
and Zub, who's writing Conan right now, they created an entire language for the last arc. So I love immersive stuff like that. And DC needs to make sure you pitch it when you start it back up again, because don't let them write the previews blurb. You have to write the previews blurb, please.
Yeah, I've been trying to write more of the previews blurbs lately. But yeah, I'm actually writing. Yeah, I wrote several languages for this book, and I'm doing another one for Superman now. It's just I just love world building, man. It's just really fun, and it makes the stories feel so much deeper and more real. So that's cool about Zub. I did not catch up on Zub. I just bought the first trade of that the other day. I was reading the Jason Aaron like the day it came out.
Yeah,
I did fall off.
Actually, Roy Thomas does a couple of issues in between. Then it went on hiatus because of COVID. Now it's back with Zub, and it's good again.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's dark right now.
Cool. Well, looking forward to it. I stand by Zub. He's a good choice for that. I know he's a huge D&D guy, and he knows. Like I've heard him talk about the old. Like he's read the Robert E. Howard stuff too, as I have, and he talks very knowledgeably of it. So yeah, it feels very much like the Bronze Age version of Conan. They've kept it. Even after Aaron, they've kept it feeling like you picked up at issue 276. It feels like that to me. It's really good. Well, I'll have to check it out.
So I just want to show the audience. Remember all this dark books that he did, and he did 6, and then he did 6 of these. 6 pages of this. Just dark, and Adventure Time. I'm like, I want to picture open that up and see Federici drawing Fiona Cake and all that.
Well, that story is actually dark too. I did Adventure Time's dark, man. It's like a post-apocalyptic world. You can see in the preview, you see like nuclear bombs and all this like skulls and crap. But no,
or maybe that's what you saw. The rest of them.
Yeah, the story is called Forgotten Princess, and it's about this little corner of the world that where forgotten things go. And
like the Misfit Toys from Rudolph.
More in a more nihilistic sense, yes. Like if you yourself are forgotten and no one remembers you, that's where you stay too. There are people trapped there.
Oh,
so
creepy.
yeah, it's cool. I like how it turned out, and the artist was great on that too.
That's cool.
So you also told us before the show started about this awesome announcement today. This is the only image I could find. What can you tell us about this?
Honestly, not much, but it comes after. So King in Black is about to wrap up, and this is basically setting the table again after King in Black finishes. Like right on the heels of King in Black, we're gonna there's been a lot of symbiotes in Marvel news for a while now. King in Black's been everywhere, and now that that's done, this kind of sets the new path for the symbiotes going forward, and Carnage plays a huge part in that. I don't know how much I can even really spoil because
what's the name of it?
It's Extreme Carnage. Sorry.
Okay. It's Extreme Carnage, and what are you writing?
I'm right. So, man, I don't even know.
You said you're writing the first issue.
I'm writing the alpha issue. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also, there's more to come, and I'm writing some more of it too. I think they want to save a lot of these announcements as they come because there's
you don't have to. We love getting spoilers, but
and if we just force you to say something that you didn't want to say, we'll cut it.
Yeah.
That's fine. We're not trying to get anybody in trouble. That's not what we're here for.
So yeah, it's a numbered series, and the alpha is the thing that sets the whole thing up, and then there's going to be other like superstar writers doing really cool stuff after that. For some of they're not exactly one shots because it all ties together.
Yeah.
But a lot of them focus on specific characters, and a lot of them by different writers, and it's going to be super rad.
That's
Cool.
That's so cool. Like I love. I mean, back in the day, like we've talked to Axel Alonso and some other publishers, and they talk about the sitting around the table. Of course, now you guys do it through Zoom. Like you sit around the Zoom call and go, okay, so this is my idea, and I want pitch. So how is your branch going to do? So that's sort of what you guys did. You sort of the 6 or 7 of you guys that are writing it have all sat down and said, okay, we're going to take it the story this direction. Are you and you're the one guiding this? Is that what you?
Yeah,
sort of...
I'm in kind of a showrunner role.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm writing the alpha issue, and then some other people are going to take the reins. So I've got this through line that sets the trajectory for the whole. First, I pitched the whole thing. Like here's my take on Carnage and what we could do with it. And that was, they were just like, go nuts. Like I want to hear your pitch. And we could have done like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre take, or a or like a Terminator thing. Like it could be, they gave me no real direction for what they wanted to do. So I was like, here's what I'd like to do. Based on everything, all the hundreds of issues of Venom and Carnage and everything I just read to catch up on this stuff. Here's what I think we should do next. And they dug it. And so I pitched, I gave my umbrella idea to the rest of the room. Like, here's where we start. Here's what I'm doing. Here's where it's going to end. Now I have to figure out how to tie these other stories in with it and make a cohesive story out of it, while also introducing all these symbiotes and like setting the status quo going forward. And I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be, this is not something that I wasn't going to sleep with a blanket up my chin. Like, I wish I could write Venom. It's not something I was really thinking about until they were like, hey, we have this idea that we think you could really do a good job with. Here's what it is. And it got me thinking, and it kind of set me, oh man, what can I even tell you? I'm bringing some things in from the old days of Marvel that I think no one's thinking about. I think it's gonna be really cool to see it again in the books. And also, but we're making Carnage even more psycho than ever. And
he's gonna Donny Cates us, guys. He's gonna Donny Cates us.
It's gonna be the dog that he mentioned.
I'm gonna be buying some 30-year-old book that's in dollar bins that nobody cares about, because you're gonna toss some little nugget in there that Carnage's drool is his poop, and then we're gonna.
That's right. I read that issue. Yeah, it's cool. I'm really stoked about it. I think it's going to be neat. Carnage is Cletus Cassidy, right? Like I don't know if you guys are big Marvel guys, but it's hard to imagine Carnage without Cletus Cassidy. But Cletus Cassidy's dead as hell. Like he's dead in a way that it would be hard to bring him back, or at least be kind of silly. It would seem silly or like disingenuous to be like, "Ha, he's alive." Yeah, because he's like bones. I mean, there's like nothing left. So, but it's hard to imagine Carnage without Cletus Cassidy, though. And we kind of figured out a way to make Carnage feel like he should, to make him as psycho as he should, to give him the voice that he has that we all know. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And honestly, I kind of want to see what people do with it after I'm done with it, because it sets them up in a really cool, super psycho direction.
Is the team built for that series, and can you tell us who else is on that team or no?
It is built. I can't say. I was actually, when I saw the announcement today, I was like, well, this sucks. No one's in it but me. And I thought they were announcing everyone. But then it came out like, no, we're actually going to announce these guys later because right now they're just announcing July. And when they want to announce these other people individually to get a little more attention on their books. So I'm going to try to honor that and not blow it. But
no problem.
But you'll be stoked. It's good people.
Cool.
So this is also, is this the first Marvel book where you're truly writing as part of the big Marvel world? Like Aliens is its own thing. The Marvel Zombies is its own thing. I mean, yes, they cross over a little, but not now. You're taking on Carnage. Like you're taking on all the different superheroes that are part of. I'm assuming this is going to have ramifications everywhere, like they always do for at least 6 months. Sorry, that's how the Marvel and DC big
The
events
Marvel
happen.
world will never be the same until we're done.
Yeah.
Until
But is it sort of cool to think, hey, I get to actually any of the Marvel characters I can do anything with them now? Like that had to be sort of fun to think through.
I did write 3 issues I wrote a Cat miniseries for Empire, and that was cool.
Oh, okay.
So that was basically it was kind of like being part of this room that I'm in now, except I wasn't running it. It was and there weren't really a lot of meetings I needed to be a part of. It was more because that was the Cap thing was very insulated. They were like, okay, you have 3 issues. It's about Cap. He's going to be like rounding up all of Earth's military. He's leading the charge for Earth's military while the Avengers and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four are doing their own thing. So you basically just got Cap and all the military in the world. And I was like, okay. And S.H.I.E.L.D., right? And they're like, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s not around anymore. I was like, okay. So that's it. Go. And then I would talk a little bit with Al Ewing, who was he was a showrunner on that event. And so I would sometimes ask Al questions like, hey, how do I get, I like this character. How do I get him on the board? Or, what happens right before this? Where do I need Cap to be at the end? So any kind of questions I had about how the Katati worked, the Katati were the big alien threat that they were dealing with, that would all go to Al, but we weren't like talking a whole lot. I would just send questions. They would come back and I would do my own thing. This is the first time I've been a part of like a writer's room where I'm steering more stuff than just my own, and in which I'm using characters that are also in other books and stuff. Yeah. So in that way, yeah, it's my first time in the big sandbox at the same time as other people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's exciting.
I mean,
looking forward to seeing how that goes, because I'm a regular Venom reader, so I have tried to avoid as many of the offshoots to King in Black as possible, just because of money more than anything else.
Well, there's so goddamn many of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to what you're doing. This will be cool to get back to that characters.
Well, the elevator pitch for this one is super fun. I wish I could tell you, but very soon, as soon as I'm allowed to, I'll put on like it's Carnage meets a particular movie, and it's as far as the tone, the vibe of it.
Okay, cool.
Okay. It'll just sum up. Then you'll be like, I get it. Like as soon as I say it, I'll be like, oh, cool.
Well, I mean, and we've all only read Alien, and we liked it. We didn't quite know what parts we didn't like. We want to see where it's going. But after hearing you talk about it, all of your books that you've written, we're going, I'm going to go back and read those. I'm going to go back and read
2 days.
I'm so excited now for seeing what you're going to do with Carnage, but also seeing what you're going to do with this however many first part of the arc of Alien. And like, you've sold us on yourself as a writer. And that's your job, I know. But please be a pitch man. Please, anytime you want to pitch something, shoot it to us, and we'll go, yes, we'll give you thumbs up. Because so far, we've liked every pitch you've done for these books, even the ones that you're not even proud of. You're like, dude, man, Kong, I didn't like working on it, but man, it was great. I want to read Kong now.
Yeah. Let's talk about Kong just for a second, because I really like how the story came out. Actually, I'm doing a creator-owned thing now with that artist, Chad Lewis. He did awesome work on that book, but he was rushed, man. He was turning in 2 pages a day some days. It was crazy how fast he was going. Like the deadline was fast. So he knocked it out though. He got it done, and it still turned out great. But when he really has time to work, he is like friggin' Rembrandt. It's amazing what he can do.
And you've done a lot of licensed stuff. Have you had do you like it or dislike it, having that extra layer of, I guess, oversight of like, wait a second, we can't have you doing this with our characters? Like,
I usually love it. That particular one was hard because they were so married to the original Kong material, to the point where I introduced a creature in that book in Kong called, so the pitch for Kong was, we see a Howard Hughes type philanthropist, adventurer, explorer, big businessman at the end of his life, and he kind of flies off, presumably to kill himself. He's just going to fly off into the sunset and never come back. And he sees Skull Island, and he finds reason to exist again. He's like, I'm gonna colonize this place. I'm gonna make this place mine. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna colonize it. I'm gonna bring Christianity and civilization to these natives. This place is going to be my legacy, and it's Skull Island. and he doesn't understand that the natives there already have gods, and they don't need any new ones, and they don't want us there, and everything goes horribly wrong. So there's a point, of course, when which the humans go across the wall, and this little group of people trying to get from here to there, and like one by one they're getting killed by this all kinds of awful shit. And I introduced these creatures that I called the Harpies, that are like kind of like dinosaur birds, but they have slightly human features, and then just enough to make them super creepy looking. And they have a voice, like they kind of sing, and they and when Kong is coming, they make this sound like Kong, and that's where the natives get the word from, is these creatures.
So you were creating some straight up lore that like has never existed.
Yeah, and they didn't want that. They were like, and they were like, "That's not in this book." Like, here's what the dinosaurs look like. Like, here, look, this is a dinosaur. And so they were like, "Here's an example of what the creature looks like." And the pictures from this old ass book were just straight up dinosaurs, exactly how they actually existed, with like a little fin on their head or something. It was like some little throwaway detail. Like, here's what the creatures actually look like. Don't stray from this at all. And I just kind of did anyway. And I eventually they kind of just got tired of fighting me on it. But there was a lot of other stuff, like the whole angle of the guy being part of his crew was the part of the point of it was to bring the natives into Christianity, and they ultimately reject all that. The licensors didn't like that at all. Like, they had a real problem with that, and we had to kind of shift the message a little bit. So it's just a lot of fights. That was the way in which, I didn't like it, but I did like how much I learned on the book. The creative team was awesome. Chad was incredible to work with. The editors were great. Every licensed book I've done, I've had a really great time on, except that one, and that was strictly because of the issue with licensors. But I always learned a ton. I always learned to love a character that I didn't love before, like unless I did love him before, like with Alien or Jim Henson stuff. I did Dark Crystal sequel as well, which I'm a huge Jim Henson guy, so that was also super easy.
And those covers were gorgeous. The books,
yes,
yeah, I know they nailed it, man. I'm really proud of that book too. So yeah, I love working on licensed books. Creator owned, of course, is its own reward, but a lot of people are like, "Meh, licensed stuff. I just kind of want to get back to my stuff. I'll do the licensing to pay the bills or to get more fans, but I really want to do my own thing." That's never been my feeling on it. I really do deeply love doing both.
That's great. We want to respect your time. We know that you're crazy, but is there anything else that you want to tell us about future plans coming up, or are you pretty much just tied up with Alien and Carnage moving forward? Is there other stuff?
I'm writing Superman in Action Comics right now too. I'm not on Superman very long. Like I was never gonna be. I did the Future State stuff, and I've got another. I think I have another month or two, and maybe another month of Superman getting announced and solicits, and then I'm gonna be off Superman. Then I will be doing Action Comics for like a long time. And I've got a really cool arc in that coming called War World Rising. That's going on now, like starting in April. That's War World Rising #1 in Action Comics. And that goes to places. Talk about world building, dude. I'm taking Superman to some really big cosmic places. I'm really stoked. We're gonna see the super, trying to put the super in Superman and really show how epic he can be.
It's about time.
I'm stoked for it. If you want to see my take on Superman, read his Future State stuff. It's kind of my mission statement on what Superman is. Specifically Superman Worlds of War and House of L. Those are the ones that I wrote, and very proud of those. And they kind of sum up what Superman is to me. So Superman Action Comics for the foreseeable future, Alien for the foreseeable future. Extreme Carnage. I've got another big thing coming out from DC that will get announced kind of down the line. I think that's one of the reasons I'm getting off the Superman thing is to do this other massive thing that's going to be really cool.
Man, it feels like it's just like, hey, here's this Phillip Kennedy Johnson guy. Check him out. Everyone wants him. Like that's I don't know. We're all going. Wait, you're doing how many different from the big guys? You're doing
people handing you the keys.
That's
yeah. I'm trying to make the most of it before I inevitably get forgotten. At some point I'll I'll be washed up, and I'm trying to make most of it before that happens.
Not with these kinds of titles. I think these are the kinds that keep you remembered forever by the sound of it. But
thanks, man. I hope so. I'm really having a great time trying to make the most of it and trying to give fans what they deserve, and in a good way.
Cool.
And
cool. Well, thank you for that. As a reader, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And guys, if you want to find out more about what he does, his website, and we're going to have the links in our article, but his website is a great source. He puts, I don't know if you might not have your newest stuff in there, but you can go to his website and you can click on it. It links right into Comixology or Amazon or wherever you want, so you can go read it. It doesn't necessarily tie you to go buy an issue, but you can go buy it off Comixology and read his stuff, and it's there. And that's how we found out about all the long list of stuff that he'd already written. And you're like, oh man. And then now hearing his pitches, please. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go check out Last God for sure. I'm going to give Warlord.
I got to dig them out of these boxes.
Yeah. Like, we're going to check them out. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sitting there going, damn it. I was hoping when Kate's got done, I could give up on Venom and Carnage for a little bit. But now I'm like, crap, I got another series to go.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for your time and
thank you guys.
And hanging with us. It's been really fun.
Yeah,
really educational.
Honestly, let's come back.
Please, let's make that happen. Absolutely.
See you guys. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.